I uncovered a sinister secret at a haunted animal shelter. What I discovered will terrify you. Sarah thought volunteering at the animal shelter would lift her from the dull shadows of her struggles. Instead, it felt more like stepping into a nightmare. Every evening, she entered that rundown building at the edge of Greenfield, the one constantly enveloped in creepy whispers and a draft that chilled her bones. As she took a step inside, the door creaked ominously, making her heart race. Cats hissed from their cages, and dogs barked like they sensed something lurking in the dark. Then came the scratching. It started soft, a mere tickle against the walls. But as days turned into weeks, the sounds grew louder, clawing at her sanity like a rabid beast. She'd glance up and find flickering lights casting eerie shadows that whispered tales filled with dread. The once cozy place, meant to be a refuge for lost animals, felt more like a haunting prison for the forgotten spirits of the past. She often wondered if the shelter itself was alive with secrets tainted by something sinister. Some nights, the rustle sent shivers racing up her spine. The animals, usually needy and affectionate, behaved strangely. Their eyes glowed in the dim light, almost as if they held memories of their last moments. Each vibrant flicker filled with horror. They seemed to know things, dark truths swirling like the thick dust in the air. Sarah was no longer sure if she was saving them, or if they were the ones who needed saving. At first, she shrugged it off, tired eyes playing tricks in the half-dark. But a creeping doubt grew heavier. Rumors about the shelter's dark past surfaced through hushed voices at school pickup. Whispers about animals that went missing, about odd rituals that once took place in this very building. What she discovered made her blood run cold. Guardian spirits meant to protect lost souls. But on the flip side, stories of something darker lurking just beneath. This shelter wasn't just a home for lost pets, it was alive with gloom. Just when she thought she could trust Ms. Langley, the shelter's director, Sarah's instincts screamed otherwise. Ms. Langley, with her polished demeanor, felt more like a puppet master hiding twisted strings. She smiled brightly, yet her eyes held shadows. Shadows that suggested knowledge of the neighborhood's beloved pets that had simply vanished. Had she been part of it? The past felt woven into the very walls of the shelter, with grim truths waiting to be uncovered. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then one evening, as a storm brewed clouds outside, she caught sight of her son's favorite dog in a cage, Ziggy, with eyes that once sparkled, now glimmered with a wild, frantic edge. The terror tingling at the base of her spine turned to ice. Could her children be the next targets? Panic bubbled within her, and as she reached for her phone to call for help, the power flickered and left her engulfed in darkness. The tension in the room ratcheted up a notch, the scratching now frenzied and desperate. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. This was not just a fishy place, it was a house of horrors. She took a deep breath and stepped toward Ms. Langley, who stood in the shadowy corner, a twisted smile creeping across her face. The air thickened as Sarah realized there would be no turning back from this confrontation. Whatever awaited her in that haunted shelter would change everything. Would she uncover the truth before it consumed her? Or would she too vanish into the very dark that enveloped the shelter? The air felt suffocating, thick with tension as Sarah approached Ms. Langley. Shadows clung to the director like a second skin, her smile unnaturally wide, revealing an unsettling calm in the midst of chaos. The scratching grew louder, punctuating the dread that settled heavily around Sarah. It was as if something was desperate to escape, to break free from the prison that housed it. "Sarah, dear," Ms. Langley said, her voice smooth as silk but laced with an undertone of menace. "You should be careful. Wandering around in the dark can be dangerous. Dangerous." The word echoed in Sarah's mind as she swallowed hard. It was more than just a threat. It was a warning wrapped in a smile. What's going on here? Her voice quivered, barely above a whisper, but she fought to keep a firm tone. Why are the animals behaving like this? Why is Ziggy? Ziggy is simply adjusting, dear. They all must adapt to their surroundings. It's a survival instinct, don't you think? Ms. Langley stepped closer, her breath cool against Sarah's skin. Suddenly, the lights flickered on briefly, illuminating the chaos around them. Ziggy's cage rattled violently, an explosive burst of frantic energy. The other animals joined in, their collective wails rising, echoing through the shelter like a horrifying symphony. Sarah's heart raced as she realized the animals could sense what lurked in the darkness. Enough! Ms. Langley clapped her hands, the sound sharp and authoritative. The sudden silence was deafening, the only remaining noise the faint scratching, now eerily rhythmic. They know things, Sarah. Things we don't. What do you mean? A surge of defiance fueled her, and she stepped closer, shaking with the weight of dread. Ms. Langley tilted her head, a calculating look in her eyes. Some animals are more than they seem. They are guardians of secrets, protectors of lost souls. But sacrifice is required sometimes. Panic clawed at Sarah's mind. Sacrifice? What on earth was she talking about? And how was she connected to this grim fate? You mean sacrifices of the animals? What do you do with them? A chilling grin formed on Ms. Langley's face. They have their roles to play just as you do, Sarah. Before she could respond, the lights plunged back into darkness. A cold wind howled through the shelter, making the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. She felt her heart pounding like a war drum, her breath quickening. The scratching intensified, a frenzied scraping that seemed to crawl beneath her skin. Please, just let them go. Sarah shouted, desperation spilling over. What do I have to do? Find the truth, Ms. Langley whispered, her voice now betrayed by a darker cadence. Unlock the shadows. Only then can you hope to free them all. As the sounds encroached, Sarah's mind raced. She choked back her terror, heart thumping madly in her chest. She couldn't let fear overpower her. What was hidden here? What truths waited in the darkness? A low growl reverberated behind her, and she turned slowly to see a shape creeping from the shadows. It was more menacing than she imagined, a looming presence that sent ice coursing through her veins. Her instincts screamed to run, but would she dare confront the evil that resided within those walls? Sarah, it whispered, the voice deep and gravelly, dripping with darkness. Come closer, discover what lurks beneath. The temptation was unbearable, and as the pressure mounted, she realized she was being pulled into a nightmare far larger than herself. Could she defy the darkness, or was she meant to join it? This shelter was no haven. It was a battleground where the stakes were higher than she ever anticipated. The truth would demand courage, but would she find the strength to face what awaited her? Or would the haunting spirits envelop her too? Just then, the ground trembled beneath her feet, and the air thickened with impending doom. What awaited on the other side of the threshold? The presence shifted closer, a shadow distinct from the surrounding dark. Sarah felt its weight pressing down on her, the air growing colder, thicker. She couldn't breathe. The growling intensified, transforming into guttural, echoing sounds, words that twisted into a paralyzing chant. Join us, Sarah, join us. Every instinct screamed for her to run. Yet a deep-rooted curiosity clawed at her will. She forced herself to step forward. The shadow contorted, a featureless figure obscured in darkness. Beneath its surface, she sensed a swirling torrent of sorrow and rage, a deep reservoir of lost souls desperate for release. Who are you? She managed to ask, her voice trembling yet resolute. Remember those who have come before you. All who have entered, none have exited unchanged. The voice dripped like melted wax, heavy with despair. Images flashed in jagged bursts in her mind, faces contorted with fear, animals once vibrant now dimmed to echoes of their former selves. They gazed back, silent and pleading. The scratching began again, louder than before, as if the walls themselves were trying to claw through the very foundation of the shelter. Each scrape sent shivers racing down Sarah's spine. The lights flickered sporadically, revealing quick glimpses. the cages with trembling creatures, eyes wide with terror, and behind them, shadowy figures that hovered just beyond the light's reach. "Why was I brought here?" she shouted, frustration spilling forth. "What do you want from me?" "Truth, dear." The truth. The shadow loomed larger, filling her vision. "In order to save them, you must embrace what you fear. Only then will salvation be possible." Salvation? Or was it another trap? Sarah felt a profound sense of dread, heightened by her inability to make sense of the chaos around her. She thought of Ziggy, the frantic animal in the cage, if it was sacrificing its sanity. Could she face a similar fate? "Your heart knows the answer," the shadow urged. "You must uncover the past." The words, laced with urgency, reverberated inside her. Her heart raced as she realized a deeper truth rested in her connection to this place. A memory drifted to the surface, but it was too blurred to grasp fully. Suddenly, the wind howled through the room, slamming doors shut like thunderclaps around her. Panic surged within as she spun around, but she couldn't see Ms. Langley. Had she vanished into the chaos? A blinding light flickered to life, illuminating a small door tucked away in the corner. It pulsed with an otherworldly glow, nearly inviting. With each heartbeat, it throbbed like a beacon, summoning her. A part of her screamed to flee, but something deep inside wanted to push through the unknown, to discover what lay beyond that door. "Go, before it's too late," came the echoing whispers from the shadows, urging her forward as Sarah approached the door. The scratching sounds crescendoed into a raw symphony, the very walls vibrating with what felt like restless life. With a trembling hand, she reached for the doorknob and froze. The shadows around her seemed to blend into one chaotic mass, a warning and a beckoning all at once. Heart pounding, the fear wrapped around her like barbed wire. Could she turn back now? Or would crossing that threshold demand more than she was willing to give? As she twisted the knob, the door creaked open, the air outside it thick with anticipation. What awaited her on the other side? The chill of dread flooded her as she stepped into the darkness beyond, knowing that every moment led her closer to an unraveling mystery that might trap her forever. What secrets would she unearth? And would the price of discovery be more than she could bear? The door swung open, creaking like a dying breath. A suffocating darkness enveloped Sarah, pulling her deeper into the unknown. She hesitated, the shadows clawing at her resolve. The growling from the other side transformed into whispers, voices of lost lives fading into obscurity, mingling with the cold smell of damp earth and decaying wood. "Step inside, Sarah," they murmured, seductive yet chilling. She took a tentative step forward, her feet barely making a sound on the damp ground beneath her. The light from the room behind her faded, swallowed by the yawning void ahead. The air thickened, a mixture of fear and something rotten, almost alive. The darkness loomed, pressing against her, as if hungry to consume her whole. The whispers pressed on, dragging her through the whispering void. "We're waiting." She could feel them, the souls trapped, their desperation seeping into her skin like a poison. The shadows danced around her heels, flickering as if they were items from a twisted carnival. Shivering, Sarah pressed on. In the far distance, flickering embers of a ghostly light emerged, leading her deeper into the shadows. The ground was uneven, littered with shattered glass and remnants of what used to live here. As she edged closer, fear pierced her heart, a relentless reminder of the horrors she was stepping toward. Then, she saw it, a room just ahead, the source of the flickering. It pulsed with an eerie, pale blue light. The air changed, and the whispers transformed into a low, melancholy chant. They called her name, but not just her name, every name. Sarah and Sarah and Sarah. The voices developed an almost hypnotic rhythm, dragging her closer. Suddenly, she burst into the room, drawing in a sharp breath. The flickering light revealed walls plastered with photographs, faces of the past lined up like a macabre gallery. Some faded into shadows, others burned bright with torment. Each pair of eyes peered into her, their expressions inexplicable, filled with sorrow and a desperate plea for justice. Sarah felt the chill spark a memory deep within her, something long buried that clawed its way to the surface. One face stood out. A girl pale with dark hair, her lips curled in a silent scream of agony. Sarah felt as if she recognized this haunting figure. But where? Who was she? Look closely, the voices urged, their resonance mixing with the distant scratching sound. A frantic pleading from beyond. She knows you. Trembling, Sarah stepped toward the photographs. Each one blurred in and out, faces morphing in a grotesque slideshow of despair. The chanting crescendoed, growing louder and more demanding until it reached a maddening peak. The hairs on the back of her neck bristled, and the air crackled with tension. Then, a low thud echoed, and the room shook, knocking Sarah off balance. A door she hadn't seen before slammed shut, sealing her in with the chaos. Panic surged, and her heart thundered in her chest. Could she escape? Or had she truly walked into her grave? Embrace the truth, Sarah, the spectral voices whispered, a cacophony of unsettling urgency. Somewhere above her, shadows flickered wildly. Something was coming. What do you want? She cried, desperation cracking her voice. Your heart holds the key, they hissed. Unlock the past, or become part of our sorrow. The light trembled, shadows swirling like a storm. A figure materialized before her, a reflection of the girl in the photograph, eyes wide and pleading. Help me, it whispered. But know this, every soul you save could cost you everything. As the spectral girl reached out, Sarah felt the air grow thicker, reality stretching at the seams. Was this a chance to uncover the truth, or a pathway leading to her doom? The ground shook again, and the walls closed in. Was she brave enough to confront the truth if it meant sacrificing her own soul? With breathless anticipation, Sarah opened her mouth, but her voice was swallowed by the rising tide of darkness, drowning out her thoughts. What would she uncover when she embraced the weight of those lost souls? And would the choice she had to make tear her apart? The moment the girl's ephemeral hand touched Sarah's, a surge of icy energy shot through her, freezing her in place. Eyes wide, she stared into the depths of the spectral face, an echo of despair. It pulsed with each harsh breath she took, alive and begging. Sarah's heart raced painfully against her ribs as every instinct screamed for her to pull away. Yet a hypnotic force held her there, tethered to the spectral girl, who had now locked onto her gaze with an intensity that felt tangible. Help me! The girl's voice was a whisper wreathed in sorrow, the weight of its urgency pressing down on Sarah like 1,000 stones. Time felt distorted, stretching thin as shadows churned, the air suffocating. This girl, this lost soul, she was desperate. Sarah's memory churned, fragments of a past long sealed away. Hadn't she seen those eyes before? Or was it just the darkness playing tricks? Each blink felt like a step further into the abyss, a spiraling descent. Suddenly, the whispers shifted. They became frantic, no longer mere echoes but a frantic chorus demanding urgency. You have to listen. You have to find the truth. Sarah's pulse quickened. What truth? She managed, her voice trembling against the cacophony. Everything, it all leads back. The girl's voice faded into pained gasps, eyes darting to the photographs lining the walls, her mouth forming a silent scream as if in response. The flickering blue light sprawled across the room, revealing grotesque details, cracks in the wood, stains on the floor that looked unsettlingly fresh. A chill coursed through her as the realization hit. These weren't just photographs. They were trapped moments, echoes of lives cut violently short, lives tethered to this place. Sarah forced herself to focus on the girl. Who did this to you? She gasped, the sound barely breaking through the rising tide of shadows. Find the one who left us behind. The girl's features warped in anguish, her lips barely moving. Find the truth, and free us all. With that, the room trembled violently. The pictures warped and twisted, cramped under unseen weight, the cries growing louder, drowning her in sorrow. Time disintegrated, and the very walls around her seemed to pulse with anguish, pulling her into a void filled with desperate wails. Stop! Sarah screamed above the chaos, feeling her sanity fraying. She couldn't just stand there, drowning in despair. But she felt an anchor, a stifling grip of dread rooting her in place. Every millisecond stretched into an eternity. In the chaos, a deep darkness rose from the corner of the room, blacker than the void itself, swirling and coiling towards her. She stumbled back, heart pounding, suffocated by the wave of dread. Then a new voice deep, chilling, reminiscent of funeral bells, sliced through the air. You tread where none should wander. You seek the past, but the past seeks you. Before she could react, the figure of a man emerged from the darkness. His eyes burned with unholy fire, and beneath his twisted smile lay an insatiable appetite for pain. Welcome to your reckoning, he hissed. You shouldn't have come here, girl. Sarah's blood ran cold. Something about him felt more ancient than time, a predator cloaked in shadows. Her instincts screamed run, but where could she find sanctuary in a room that offered none? Each breath felt like a curse, heavy with dark intent. No one can save you now. His voice rolled over her like thunder, sending tremors across her bones. The air coiled, thickening with each word. Sarah felt her pulse quickening. Fight or flight coursed through her veins, instincts kicking into overdrive. But before she could decide, the spectral girl surged forward, a shield between Sarah and the figure. Don't listen to him, she cried. He's part of what happened to us. The room ruptured, the walls splintering as Sarah's mind teetered over the precipice of chaos. She was caught between two worlds, two realities, one whispering the truth, the other summoning dreadful ignorance. In this moment of overwhelming horror, a thought ignited within her like a spark could. Unveiling one dark secret about this place set her free, or would it only lead her deeper into despair? The shadows lunged. The figure reached for her. Sarah's eyes locked onto the blurred faces behind her. They screamed for her attention, for her action. With a final, desperate gasp, she lunged toward the girl, toward the truth, whatever it may hold. But as her fingers brushed the girl's ethereal arm, the world exploded into darkness. What would she awaken to? A truth or only her worst fears manifested in blood and sacrifice? The crushing darkness swallowed her whole, pressing in like a vice. Sarah felt weightless, suspended in the void, a space without time, where screams echoed off an endless blackness. An icy chill wrapped around her like a shroud, snatching her breath away. Then, with a sudden jolt, it all changed. She tumbled onto a cold, hard floor, gasping as her lungs filled with stale air. The familiar stench of dampness and decay hit her like a wave, and she bolted upright, heart racing. She was back in the animal shelter. The walls loomed overhead, warped and shadowed in her vision. Flickering lights danced overhead, illuminating grotesque murals that seemed to writhe at the edges of reality. Panic took hold, twisting through her stomach. Had she truly returned? Was it all an illusion, or a new layer of terror? Sarah, a fragile voice broke through the haze. She blinked rapidly and turned toward the sound, nearly sobbing with relief when she saw the spectral girl standing there, her translucent fingers reaching out. I'm here, Sarah breathed, the words catching in her throat. What's happening? The girl's eyes shimmered with urgency. You're back. He can't see you yet, but you must hurry. Who? Sarah asked, glancing over her shoulder, the weight of dread settling back into her bones. Him. The girl pointed. The one who did this, who keeps us trapped. You have to find the truth. Before Sarah could respond, the air shifted. A figure emerged from shadow, a grotesque silhouette that slinked closer. Back so soon? His voice dripped with malice, curling around her like smoke. The predator stood there, eyes glowing like embers in the gloom. I thought I put you down for good. Every muscle in Sarah's body felt like it was encased in ice. She realized with horror that he didn't just see her, he anticipated her movements, his smile widening as if her fear delighted him. No, she shouted, her voice trembling. You're not in control anymore. Ah, but that's where you're wrong, he sneered, the shadows quivering in response. You're just a pawn in this game, as they all were. The words felt like chains wrapping around her throat, tightening, squeezing her voice until it was barely a whisper. The girl stepped forward, her image flickering with determination, her pale face filled with defiant hope. You were chosen for a reason, Sarah. You can break their bond. As the man advanced, the walls seemed to close in, creating a suffocating atmosphere of despair that threatened to engulf her. But Sarah's heart thrummed with an unexpected resolve, fueled by the faces in the photographs, the fleeting moments she couldn't quite grasp in her mind. Hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded. Forcing the words through clenched teeth, he laughed, a chilling sound that reverberated through the hollow room. "Do you really want to know? The truth has a way of tearing flesh, you know. It's not something most can handle." A flicker of light caught her eye. Among the shadows, a portrait twisted and turned, seemingly alive. The faces, there were so many of them, their eyes pleading. Each one had a story that begged to be told. A cacophony of whispers filled the room, rising and falling like a chaotic symphony. It was the truth, trying to break free. "Make them listen," the girl urged, stepping back as the man lunged forward. "You can't be afraid." In that instant, clarity struck. Sarah grasped the weight of the moment. She didn't just have to confront the predator before her, she had to embrace the stories trapped in this forsaken place. As quick as lightning, she pivoted and dashed towards the ever-shifting portraits. Each brush of her fingers stirred the trapped spirits free, their emotions crashing over her in waves, visions of sorrow flooding her mind. Faces turned familiar, a tapestry of shared pain and terror pouring into her consciousness. "Listen to me," she cried over the uproar, her voice rising above the chaos. "You won't be forgotten." The shadows roared in anger, swirling violently as if to shield the remnants of their former selves. The man's furious growl echoed through the space, reverberating like thunder. "No!" he shouted, his grip growing more desperate, the shadows aligning behind him into monstrous shapes. "You can't set them free." Sarah's heart threatened to burst from her chest. She mustered every ounce of courage within her, the memories of lost souls erupting in her veins. They needed her voice. With an explosion of energy, the room vibrated violently, the floor beneath her trembling as if it could split. The shadows howled in agony as the portraits illuminated with blinding light, revealing truths too heavy to bear. Sarah could feel the chaos teetering on the edge. She was so close, but could she truly shatter the chains that held the spirits in this hellish existence? As the blinding light washed over her, pulling her into the void once more, a new pulse crackled in the air, one that whispered the promise of revelation or catastrophe. What awaited her on the flip side? Would the awakening grant her power or doom her to darkness forever? The light surrounded Sarah, blinding and fierce, drawing her into a whirlwind of sensations. She felt the heat of the agony, the weight of sorrow pressing against her chest. Then just like that, she landed hard on the floor again, only this time, it wasn't the cold, hard floor of the shelter. She was outside. Panic seized her. The familiar sight of the shelter faded into chaos as she found herself in an alley, littered with refuse and lurking shadows. The air was thick, sweet yet rancid, the scent of decay hanging like a shroud. Distant sirens wailed, their cries mingling with something more primal, keening voices echoing all around her. "You can't keep running, Sarah," a familiar voice hissed from behind. She spun, heart pounding. The girl was there again, but her form shimmered with distress, fading in and out of clarity. "This isn't where we need to be. We must go back." "Yes, following you." "Who?" Sarah gasped, her breaths rapid and shallow. The alley felt like it was closing in, the shadows darkening, curling toward her with menacing intent. "Him. The one who lurks in the dark. He tethered to you now." She could make out a figure at the far end of the alley, a tall, imposing shape, unmarred by the chaos. He wasn't rushing, he was watching, waiting. Sudden dread swept over Sarah, and she looked back at the girl. "How do we go back?" "I don't know," the girl replied, tears forming in her glassy eyes. "But we must find the door between our worlds. The truth, it's your only chance." The figure began to move. Not a rush, but a deliberate approach that sent shivers crawling down Sarah's spine as he stepped closer into the dim light. He looked like smoke, an abstract horror woven from darkness and nightmare. "You think you can defy me?" His voice curled through the alley like an oily serpent, slithering into her ear. "You are part of my collection, Sarah. A transient spirit, feeding the abyss." "No," she shouted, finding her courage waning under his gaze. "You don't own me." I'm here to set them free. A cruel laugh erupted from him, echoing in the claustrophobic alley. You can't even save yourself. You think they'll listen to you? Every whisper you hear, every cry. They are my puppets, tripping over their own desperate desires. You'll be no different. The girl flickered beside her, desperation tinging her voice. We need to find the door, please. Focus on the truth. What binds you all? Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, trying to drown out the taunting echoes of the man. She remembered the faces, the sorrowful eyes in the portraits, the cries of lost souls. She could still feel them, pounding inside her chest. Listen to me, she cried, feeling an ember of strength ignite. You were taken, but you don't have to stay. Your stories matter. They're buried deep within us all. The shadows recoiled, stirring violently. The alley walls trembled, stones grinding against each other like teeth. They never listened before. The figure boomed, rage cracking his voice. And you want them to listen now? Yes, she shouted, her voice resolute even as fear gripped her. If I can find the truth, I can set you free. The darkness howled, swirling like a storm around them, the shadows bashing against the walls as if fighting to remain unbroken. But something shifted. The echoes of anguish rose and intertwined with her words, vibrating in harmony, as if calling back to the swell of understanding she had ignited. The walls shimmered, and before her, a door appeared, a mere sliver of light amid the shadowed chaos. No, you will not take that. The man lunged, his form distorting, tendrils of darkness stretching toward her. In that split second, Sarah felt the weight of every soul behind her, their whispers surging beneath her skin, a tide of restless energy enveloping her. With one last glance at the girl, desperate and hopeful, she threw herself toward the door, the light beckoning her in. With a thunderous echo, they burst through, and everything went black again. But as Sarah spiraled into the void, she heard his parting words, laden with a terrible promise, reverberating in the silence. You'll regret this choice. What awaited her in the abyss? Had she truly escaped, or had she crossed into a darker domain? Sarah's heart raced. The fight had only just begun. A heaviness settled around Sarah, the void swallowing her whole. It was devoid of sound, yet the absence felt louder than any scream. She floated in darkness, suspended like an unmoored ship. Suddenly, a flicker of light broke the suffocating gloom, illuminating her surroundings. She blinked rapidly as clarity returned. Sarah gasped, the air prickling with a sharp chill. She was back in an entirely different place, the ghosts of the shadows still lingering beneath her skin. Before her was a field, a sprawling expanse under a threatening sky, thick clouds rolling in with ominous intent. The ground was uneven, scarred with deep fissures that carved paths like the gnarled fingers of some ancient beast. Sarah's heart slowed, pounding less in panic and more from confusion. She was still alive. That was something. The cries of lost souls from the alley faded and transformed into whispers carried by the wind, brushing against her ears like broken promises. Find the truth, echoed in her thoughts, haunting yet compelling. Around her, the air pulsed with an unfamiliar energy. She could sense it. Something was watching, lurking in the periphery of her vision. Shadows flitted at the edges, slipping from her gaze just as she tried to focus on them. She hesitated, taking a step forward, her foot crunching against brittle leaves littering the ground. Sarah, that voice. It dripped with a familiarity that sent shivers crawling up her spine. She recognized it but couldn't place it. She turned, squinting into the haze swirling around her, desperately seeking the owner. Who's there? No answer came, but a cold breeze swept past her, carrying the acrid scent of decay again. Her throat tightened as memories of the alley clawed their way back. She felt the weight of being followed again. Sarah. This time it was clearer, tinged with urgency. She spun around. A figure emerged through the inky shadows, a silhouette stretching tall and thin. It resolved into a girl with wild hair and wide eyes, panic etched across her face. The girl from before. She was back, and more desperate than ever. What's happening? Where are we? Sarah demanded, fighting against the urge to flee. No time to explain. The man he's looking for you. You must hide. Hide? Sarah barked. I thought I was free. I thought I escaped him. You can't escape what you don't understand. The truth binds you to him. The girl's voice trembled, her fear palpable. Listen, there's a choice you need to make. You can cast him out, but it will cost you the ground beneath. Sarah shuddered, as if the earth itself was reacting to their conversation. She saw shadows pulse around the girl, tendrils creeping forward like hungry vipers. What do you mean? Hurry! The girl gestured toward a distant chasm, a gaping maw cloaked in darkness. The well of lost souls. It hides the truth. But tread carefully. He knows you're here. His eyes are everywhere. Why are you even helping me? Sarah shouted, the urgency crackling in the air. What do you get out of this? With a quick flicker, the girl's form wavered, her visage flickering like a faulty light bulb. I was like you. I wanted to help them, but I lost everything. The girl's voice began to fade, her edges blending into the shadows. You must make the right choice before it's too late, before he takes you. Before Sarah could respond, the chilling silence split as if a dam had burst. The winds howled louder, and the sky churned violently. The shadows erupted around her, taking shape, twisting into faces, mouths gaping in silent cries. You will not escape again. The booming voice roared, reverberating through the ground and into her bones. Her pulse raced anew. She stood at a crossroads between the unknown and the abyss. Could she truly stand against him? The weight of lives lost masqueraded as a desperate gamble. Choose, Sarah. The girl's voice echoed from the void. In that moment, all clarity vanished, leaving only dread and an acidic taste of uncertainty. But she felt something stir within her, a flicker of determination mixed with brutal fear. She took a step toward the chasm, the darkness stretching wide, beckoning her closer. In that moment, she knew her choice could either seal her fate or ignite a pathway to freedom. How far would she go to confront the truth? What awaited her in the darkness might be her greatest nightmare, or the only way to finally break free. As she teetered on the brink, a shadow loomed behind her, whispering promises of despair. Choose wisely. What truth awaited her beyond the edge? Would she discover her fate as the shadows closed in? The chasm stared back at Sarah, a pit of black that felt alive, pulsing with an uncanny energy. She hesitated, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. Just then, the air thickened with a new presence, a crawling sensation brimming with malice that sent her instincts screaming. Step back, Sarah. The voice was booming, echoing all around, rippling through the atmosphere like a shockwave. She felt the shadows shift, curling closer as if hungry for her uncertainty. You'll never make it. He's too powerful. The girl's voice pierced through the chaos, weaving through the darkness like a desperate lifeline. Sarah tried to locate her, but shadows obscured her sight. What choice did she have? Step into the dark and confront the unknown, or turn back, surrendering to the chilling certainty that he was still pursuing her? With a gasp, Sarah leaped toward the chasm. The ground cracked beneath her feet like thunder as she plunged into the abyss. The sensation of falling enveloped her as the world above vanished, replaced with oppressive darkness that twisted and closed around her like a vice. She couldn't scream. There was no air, only the heavy weight of dread swirling around her. Then, with a crash, she landed hard on her feet. No, she stumbled, hitting the ground with a dull thud. The moment she managed to regain her balance, a foul smell assaulted her senses, thick and nauseating, like something long dead. Welcome, Sarah. The voice echoed in the dark, smooth like ice and tangled with amusement. It's that voice again, deeper, vibrating through her body. She squinted through the blackness, straining to locate its source. Who are you? She called, defiance choking back her fear. I am what you seek and what you dread. The darkness shifted, revealing a figure mere feet away. He emerged gradually, his features hidden within the gloom, but the gaze seemed all too familiar, mocking her every thought. I've waited long for you to arrive, he continued, stepping into the dim light. Sarah recoiled, his eyes, black holes engulfed in a sinister glow, sucked the light away. The same eyes that had haunted her dreams. The truth indeed binds you to me. It's not true, she screamed, anger buoying her courage, edging closer to insanity. I broke free. The figure laughed. It resonated, reverberating unhindered through the thick air, causing the walls around her to pulse. Did you? Or are you simply stepping deeper into my domain? As the shadows shifted, Sarah caught glimpses of dreadful sights, lost souls trapped in torment, their faces twisted in despair, forever pleading for release. She swallowed, realizing that these shadows were once others like her, those who had tried to fight only to lose everything. You see, they thought they could stand against me. You think you're different? His smile widened, revealing teeth that glimmered, almost blade-like in the dim light. You have a choice, he continued, stepping closer. Give in and become one with the dark. Or fight and I will guarantee your suffering. Fear clawed at her throat. The figures behind him writhed, lifeless eyes bore into her. The chains of the moment wrapped tight around her mind. Release? Or fight the unfathomable truth? Think carefully, Sarah, he whispered, conspiracy crackling in the air. You're not as strong as you believe. But then, amidst the despair, the girl's voice emerged from the depths of her memory, resonating with fierce determination. You can cast him out. Yes. That flicker of hope ignited a flame in her chest. She clenched her fists, summoning every ounce of bravery. I'm not afraid of you. But you should be, he hissed, advancing. The shadows lurked closer, thickening, coiling like serpents around her. The imbalance rolled like thunder as the ground trembled beneath her feet. What's your choice, Sarah? Are you ready to pay the price? The walls of darkness seemed to lean in, shifting, spiraling, as if expecting a climax the moment of her fate. What did the truth really cost? As shadows closed in, she felt the air grow colder, weighing heavier. What will it be? He grinned as she teetered on the precipice of despair and deeds unseen. And if I choose to fight? She whispered, heart thrumming. His laughter was the last thing she heard before the shadows enveloped her, pulling her deeper, into a void where light was forgotten and terrors awaited with open arms. What awaited her in this dark embrace? Would she congeal with her fears, or emerge with the truth? In the swirling darkness of the abyss, Sarah felt a surge of clarity wash over her. She was standing at a precipice, a moment where fear could take her or freedom could. The shadows loomed, thick with menace, whispering faintly of despair and chains forged long ago. She knew she was fighting not just for herself, but for every lost soul bound to this darkness. I choose to fight, she declared, her voice slicing through the gloom. The figure before her twisted with rage, eyes narrowing into slits of unholy darkness. Foolish girl, you think courage will save you? Courage is a start, she retorted, her heart racing, fired with the resolve that had been rekindled by memories of those trapped souls. Your grip is not as strong as you believe. You might have taken their lives, but you will not take their truths. With that proclamation ignited within her, Sarah reached deep into herself, pulling from a reservoir of strength she didn't know existed. The air crackled, the shadows pulsing in response. She could feel the souls around her, their whispers growing louder, rising like a storm, urging her to confront the darkness. Help her, the spectral girl cried from somewhere in the depths, her voice resonating with both urgency and hope. They are waiting for the truth. Moments twisted into eternity as Sarah felt the fabric of reality bend. The shadows surged, but she stood firm. I will not be your pawn. I won't bow to your fear. The laughter came again, cutting through her like a jagged blade. Then let us see how long your resilience lasts. As he lunged forward, shadows coiled and twisted around him, forming tendrils that reached out, eager to crush her spirit. In that instant, one name echoed through her mind. Ziggy, the terrified dog she had seen in the shelter, his frantic eyes pleading for a savior. Those eyes lit a fire in her heart. Ziggy, I'm here for you and everyone else. You deserve to be free, Sarah shouted, and as she did, an intense light flared from her. It erupted like a sun in the depths of doom, igniting every shadow around her. "No!" the man bellowed, his features contorting in agony as the light began to devour the darkness. The walls quivered, flickering with a resonance that shook the very base of his power. The more Sarah embraced that light, the louder the echoes of lost souls became, rising in a glorious symphony of anguish and hope. "Remember their stories," she cried, delving into her own memories of Ziggy, of the shelter, and of the love that had filled those once hopeless eyes. Shadows dissipated as she allowed herself to feel each soulless grief, their despair intertwining with her own resolve. The blinding luminescence surged, enveloping everything in golden radiance. Shapes emerged from the shadows, faint silhouettes of the prisoners who had once been here. Their eyes shimmered with gratitude, merging with Sarah's light as their stories unfurled like blossoms. One by one, they unraveled their truths, the pain, the loss, the relentless pursuit of closure. "You can set us free," they urged, their voices intertwining with hers. "I will not let you be forgotten," she shouted, willing the energy swirling through her to break the chains binding them all. The darkness howled, but its voice was drowned by the rising chorus of life reclaiming its hold. Light engulfed the figure, twisting and contorting as if he were a mere phantom amid the brilliance. "You can't do this," he screamed, impotent rage cracking in his tone. "You're just one girl. You'll never win." "Watch me," Sarah replied, her heart swelling as the light burst even brighter, consuming him whole. The cacophony of loss transformed into jubilant songs of freedom, strength woven from every soul she had fought for. Finally, with one last push of that radiant energy, the shadows fractured and splintered, exploding into shards of darkness that dissolved into nothingness. The figure roared, his form disintegrating into oblivion, leaving only silence behind a deafening and transformative quiet as the shadows faded. The warm light washed over Sarah. She fell to her knees, gasping for air, tears streaming down her face. Not just tears of relief, but tears of farewell. She had faced the unspeakable darkness, and in doing so, she had unveiled the truths that chained the shelter's spirits. Suddenly, she felt a gentle touch, a warm presence that enveloped her. It was the spectral girl, smiling in a soft glow of gratitude. "You did it," the girl whispered, her voice now joyful and free. "You set us all free." The weight of what had occurred began to settle around Sarah, her heart flooded with an unexplainable peace. "What happens now?" "You've unlocked the truth," the girl replied, fading into glimmers of light. "And now we can finally rest." "Thank you," Sarah whispered, feeling the last tug of fear release from her spirit. As the remnants of darkness disappeared, the once haunted shelter stood transformed, sunlight pouring through the illuminated windows. The air felt lighter, filled with hope where only despair had lingered. The animals in the shelter were alive again, their eyes sparkling, free from the unseen chains that had kept them captive. Sarah stepped outside, breathing in fresh air filled with promise. She would never forget what had transpired, nor the price of truth. But more importantly, she had discovered her strength, the powerful light that now guided her in every moment. As she walked away from the shelter, a new dawn broke across the horizon, illuminating the world ahead, ready for healing. What would she do next? The journey had only just begun, but deep down, she knew that whatever awaited her, she would face it head-on, unbound and empowered. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that dive deeper into the unknown. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this content alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this mind-blowing ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support, because only true fans understand the importance of standing by the stories that ignite our hearts. Don't wait even one more second to take action.